Well, hello and welcome. My name is Martin Lopez. I am excited to be on this webinar today. I will be interviewing Hayden. He's the author of Conscious Choosing for Flow, Transforming Conflict into Creativity. Our commitment is that our webinars go about 30 minutes long, and toward the end of the webinar we're going to have a Q&A period. And how you can ask questions is to connect with us on Twitter or Facebook. Our Twitter handle is cchoosing, and our Facebook is Facebook.com/conscious choosing. We're also going to have a book drawing, and in order for you to enter into the book drawing, all you got to do is hashtag conscious choosing book, and you'll be automatically entered. And feel free to do that as many times as you want and share that hashtag with everybody. So without further ado, let's get into this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Hayden. Well, hello, Hayden. How you doing?
Hey, great, Martine. Good seeing you.
Good to see you too. So today's webinar is called Choosing Flow, and so let's get into that. How do people choose flow when they're not in flow?
Yeah, one of the things that I wrote about, I put a quote from Marianne Williamson, who's an author and speaker, and she said, "You have to learn a new way to think if you're going to master a new way to be." So this is really about thinking differently. We have to kind of recalibrate our brain to think, what's going on with conflict and how can we transform it? We don't typically think that way. We typically think, hey, something's wrong here. I don't like it, and I don't want to partake of it because it's not working for me.
Yeah.
So, it has to do with our thinking process. And that's what we're going to be talking today, how to transform conflict to creativity and a different way of thinking. How can we think to do this?
So in our normal everyday thinking processes, I mean, we're making hundreds, if not thousands, of choices every day. And sometimes, we find ourselves in conflict, and sometimes we're finding ourselves in the outcomes that we don't want. How do we learn to train ourselves, let's say emotionally, mentally, to have those outcomes that we really want in our lives?
There's an old Chinese saying that says, if you want to know your past, look into your present condition. You've created this from the past. If you want to know your future, look into your present actions. So one of the two things that we're going to talk about is how do we think and how can we act different around difficult situations and around people that we don't like. You just mentioned we do things unconsciously. A lot of our decisions are unconsciously. We react to them. And if we're going to make it conscious, we have to respond to them with the end in mind. What do we really want? What kind of relationship do we want? And what actions right now is going to create that relationship that I ultimately want?
Yeah, I think that's really great. When I look at some of the interactions that I had, I think maybe some of the actions I wanted in the past were just to be right. Like I want to win. I want to win that argument. And then if I think past that, then I find myself, well, then what am I going to do? Now I've just defeated somebody, or I've gone fist to cuffs with somebody in a conversation, and now we're both kind of left like, God, what a jerk. Nothing's really been accomplished. So is that kind of what you're talking about?
That's exactly it. Unconsciously we have this interior intention that says, I want to win. Someone said, you want to be right? Or, you want to win? Or do you want to have a good relationship? The questions are different. What do I really want here?
Yeah.
Do I want to develop this relationship with this person? Do I want to make it safe for them to challenge me? Or do I want to shut them down and not have them challenge me at all? And they, how do they feel about that? They feel disrespected. They feel that it's not safe. Most people don't confront other people because they're afraid of the reaction of other people. People, as we talked about last time, explode on others with their emotions.
Yeah.
So this is about connecting the end result, the consequence that we really want, with the choice right now that we're making in order to connect them, connect the dots. What do we really want? How do we have to act? And start to operate differently And that takes a different level of thinking.
Absolutely. Last night I was on my Twitter account, and I was looking up the word temper. Like people have a temper, and the amount of tweets that come on Twitter just like every few seconds, it's amazing how people are just expressing. I have a bad temper. I have a short temper. I'm going to refresh it right now. My friend's short temper is causing problems between us. Daddy's tongue and temper sometimes is more than he can handle. And now right now, 12 more tweets. I mean, it's just amazing how our temperament it just affects everything. And I'm sure people don't want that. And it seems like people are reaching out, and Twitter's kind of saying, "Hey, help me out. How do I change that short temper that I have?"
So, with that tweet you had of the guy saying his friend's temper is causing problems in their relationship, he doesn't have access to address his friend's temper. He's blaming his friend, making his friend wrong.
Hmm.
So, Marianne Williamson said, you have to learn a new way to think before you can master a new way to be. So, rather than thinking his friend is causing the problems, maybe if we change our thinking to we're causing the problems because we don't know what to do about it. We're just making them wrong as a way of getting us off the hook. So if we go, I'm unconsciously incompetent about dealing with my friend. I don't know what to do. I thought about it. But if I start asking questions, I can bring it to consciously incompetent. I realize I don't know what to do. I need to look at some other way of thinking, new perspective, a new way to be with my friend in order to change our interaction. And then we read the book, we ask people, and we find that certain questions help to turn the brain back on and ask. So if we were to ask our friends, I'm curious, what's causing you this challenge and having you have this temper with me? What's going on? At least we're turning his brain back on. He has to come up with, a thought, and we've calmed down his temper by simply asking a question. And if we're able to do that consistently and get to the core, as we talked about earlier, what needs of his aren't being met, because we already know his feeling is creating temper, so something's not being met.
Sure.
And if we were able to do that, then we would be consciously competent about how to deal with such situations.
Okay.
If we did that consistently, time and time again, then we would move into unconsciously competent because we have a new way of thinking and being with people that have tempers. So we move through the 4 levels: unconsciously incompetent, unconsciously incompetent, consciously incompetent because now I'm realizing it, and then consciously competent because now I'm able to do something and I have a regular way. And as I do that on a regular basis, I move to the 4th, which is unconsciously competent. It becomes a new way of being, as Marianne Williamson said, a mastered a new way of being. And this also goes to that old Chinese proverb.
Uh-huh.
If you want to know your future, look into your current actions. And if you change your current actions, your future will change.
That's amazing. Okay. And the time you said just went through that, 175 more tweets on temper. So it's definitely a need for that.
Ah, there you go. One of the things that we bring out in the book is 60 to 80% of difficulties in organizations aren't due because of technical abilities. It's due because of strained relationships.
Yeah.
And that's a number one reason why people leave companies is because they don't feel like they belong. One of those needs of belonging.
Sure.
They don't feel like they belong, strained relationship, it's difficult, and so they leave. And Ernst & Young said when someone leaves an organization, it costs about 150% of their annual salary to replace them, train them, and get them up to speed again. So, tempers, conflict, this is a key topic for us to start dealing with.
Absolutely.
Consciously.
Yeah, consciously.
Consciously
Yeah.
competent. Yeah.
Absolutely. To shift from that like unconsciously incompetent to going to consciously competent. There's a and it's not that far. It just starts, journey starts with one step.
Yeah, you have to start asking questions and be curious. If you're not curious, you can be unconsciously incompetent, go down the road and have all these challenges happen. And you're blaming everyone else. You're not taking personal responsibility for creating them, which goes back to my philosophy. Everything in our lives we create, promote, or allow.
Absolutely.
So let's not allow these challenge relationships. Let's know what to do about them.
Absolutely. It brings up a thought that I have, and one of my coaching clients, they ask, well, so what's in it for me? Why do I have to be the person to always apologize or the person to ask the questions? And when you look into it, Hayden, isn't it ultimately always you get something out of it, even if you're the person that is initiating that conscious curiosity, that conscious curious conversation, you get something out of it. There's a lot of benefit for you as let's say a manager or an employee or a CEO or even on the board of directors to initiate those conversations, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. We're going again from unconsciously incompetent to consciously incompetent, realize there is something, and then move to consciously competent.
Yeah.
So, why do I always have to be the one to say sorry or ask questions to change it? Well, if you don't, you're giving away your personal power. If you take back your personal power and you go, I have a choice here. I can address this effectively, or I can blame others and it's going to keep going the way it's going because I haven't addressed it in a way that's powerful. So,
Terrific.
this is all about taking back our personal power and learning how to do things so we're not at the mercy of all of the situations of people in our lives. We know what to do about it by consciously choosing flow and how to create flow with others.
Terrific. Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, in your book, you talk about a few different things. One of the things is conflict resolution. That's been a big buzzword for a long time. But you specifically talk about four different areas: conflict avoidance, conflict management, conflict resolution, and then conflict transformation. What are the key differences between those four distinctions?
That's a great question, Martine. Thanks for asking it. Avoidance, I think most of us have honed that skill on how to avoid conflict. We just don't bring it up. We don't address it because it might cause a problem. And
Yeah.
then, so we avoid it. We don't have to learn that very well. It comes kind of natural. I think that's the flight uh, part of the reptilian reactions of fight, flight, and freeze. The avoidance is the flight part.
Sure.
We're just not going to do it. Uh, I I have seen a lot of organizations trainings, and a lot of them have to do with conflict resolution or conflict management. And for me, I know I could manage conflict most of my life. I've been in situations where every day I was managing it, managing it. It got kind of tiring
Sure.
because I was having to manage this conflict and this conflict. And then I thought, okay, maybe I can negotiate with them, and give them something, I get something. And after a while, it becomes a constant negotiation. The most powerful process I've ever come across is how to transform conflict in the moment, right when it's happening, into something creative and something that works for both people. Not very many people can say, I have a consistent way of doing that where I can transform conflict into creativity right when it's happening. I don't know. Do you know anyone that can? How many can say that? I have a consistent way that I can do it.
No,
You
not
know?
very many. And when I think about what you're saying is like, the first way, conflict avoidance, there's a fight. Let me get the heck out of here. Or someone's disagreeing with me. I'm just going to walk away and act like I didn't hear them. And the second two areas, which was, conflict management, it's kind of like a babysitting, right?
Oh, you're right.
And
I like the way you put that. Yeah.
and then we talk about conflict resolution, which is just kind of like every day I'm going to have to deal with these people and they come back and they got kind of the same problems. But that conflict transformation, that is like it was conflict and conflict just poof, it's just gone. it is transformed into something. Now, the question I have for you about that is, you say creativity. You know, the name of the title of your book is Conscious Choosing for Flow: Transforming Conflict into Creativity. Now, that creativity, that's for people that don't understand it. Like, what is that? What do you mean by transforming it into creativity?
Uh, Number one, you have to acknowledge that there's conflict.
Sure.
You have to be able to name the need that isn't being met.
Hmm.
And once you name the need, then you can talk about how to meet that need. When you're talking about how to meet that need, now you're in creativity.
Tell me a little more
So
about that. Tell me a little bit more about that, because I don't.
let me give you an example.
Okay, good.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'll give you an example from last week. A CEO of a hospital asked me if I would help his son, who is in a position that there's a lot of conflict. He's conflict avoidance. He didn't like it, and he wants to deal with it with his boss, and to have the conversation with his boss. Now, the situation is the guy works in a small shop, three mechanics, and the boss who owns the shop, and they restore vintage cars. And some of these cars are worth over $1 million.
Wow.
So it's really important that the work is done effectively, it's done correct, and it uses all the materials that was used during that time. And it takes a lot of work to reduplicate windshield wipers and to
Yeah.
put the exact rubber in it. I
Yeah,
mean,
absolutely.
they go to such detail. Well, this guy, he's the lead mechanic, does excellent job, and the boss has been taking his. He says the boss has been using him as a whipping post. Anytime something goes wrong, he gets in there and just yells at this guy, and he tells him one thing after another that he didn't like, and he's yelling at him, and the guy takes it and does the best he can, and it's been going on for almost 10 years, and it's been getting worse over time. And he thought, now's the time to step up and have the conversation. So in our conversation, I said, what's your needs? He said he wants to have it be safe and respectful at work. He doesn't want to be yelled at. He wants to talk about problems, not yell at each other. I said, well, okay, that's great. What do you think your boss needs? And he took back, he paused for a moment. He goes, why am I thinking about what my boss needs? This is about me. I said, yeah, of course. And if you're going to affect your boss, it would be helpful if you address his needs. So he came up with his boss wants to maintain a stellar reputation with vintage car people about the work he does. He also came up with his boss needs to create cash flow so that he can keep the business going.
Sure.
And his boss needs people working for him to do the work so that he can keep the flow going, a reputation.
Yeah.
I said, so, when you get together with your boss, get together with him outside the shop. So you're in a coffee shop where he's not going to yell and, raise his voice. And say you'd like to talk to him about the conditions in the shop and ways to improve it. He might like that. And then start out with, I think you are needing to keep your reputation well, have good work going on, and to keep cash flow. Is that right? And his boss goes, yeah. He had his boss's ears at that time.
Yeah.
He said, I really do want to do that. And there are things that are preventing me from really wanting to, like being yelled at when I haven't done anything wrong and you're taking it out on me. I would like it safe for us to talk openly and honestly about things without yelling and raising our voice at each other. The boss listened. He heard what the guy said, and he said, well, what do you want to do about it? And the son said, I'd like to write down some agreements that we won't yell at each other, we talk openly, we don't take out other people's problems that we're having with others on each other. We keep it safe and respectful. And they wrote it down and they both signed it.
Wow.
So he'd taken the conflict there with that conversation and created agreements to get his needs met, but he also talked with the boss, and they created it together, so they were in creativity at that point. And uh, I talked with him. I talked with him this week
Uh huh.
and found out things had changed significantly. And I said, "Well, did you post those agreements in your boss's office so he can view them?" He goes, "No." I said, "I recommend you do that because he may forget them,
We forget
and then you're
quick.
going to have
Yeah,
to address it again."
absolutely.
So that's one example of unconsciously incompetent, avoiding for 10 years, becoming consciously incompetent, knowing what he was doing, having a conversation and making it consciously competent because now he knew what to do, what the conversation looked like, and what agreements to set up with his boss in order to have a working relationship that would work for him. So that's an example I think brings it out. What do you think?
I think that does. What I hear you saying is that when you start to engage this way, when you start to step back and you really start to be curious, that you actually become creative in how you approach it, how you approach your own thoughts, and how you approach the communication and the interactions with other people.
Yeah, you have to consciously address what the challenge is, what the needs is. And we talked last time, the elephant in the room
Yes.
is the unmet need. And if you can name it, once you name the need that isn't being addressed, the conflict loses its charge because now you've named it. And once you name it, you can go, what would you like to do about it?
Yeah. There's the
And then
elephant.
you're into
Everybody.
creativity. You're
Absolutely.
into creativity.
That's right.
And, it's fairly simple, and we're giving it away here, but it is so powerful when you're able to name the need and then ask, what would you like to do about it?
That's
And you're
terrific.
into creativity.
It's terrific. Like hey, guess what? Look, there's the elephant. We all see the elephant. He's in the dining room. What should we do with it? Should we feed him?
Yeah, that elephant of disrespect is going. That disrespect is happening. We're not getting the respect we want. You all agree we're not getting the respect we want? Great. What would you like to do about it? How would you like to treat each other so we all get the respect? Now we're into creativity.
Yeah, that's really a great way to answer that. So let's move into the Q&A. We got a couple questions.
Okay.
Is that okay? Great job.
Great.
I really appreciate the way we interact and how you bring up all this. It's just amazing. Thank you. Hayden, we got somebody, Mark from Phoenix. He asks, what does it mean to win hearts and minds? I know we talked about that a few webinars, but he wanted to know, what does it mean to win hearts and minds?
Uh, how about if I give the short answer? The
Just do
short
that.
answer is you don't ignore people's feelings and needs. You acknowledge them. You acknowledge, hey, it seems like you're getting a little angry. Is that what's going on? Or it seems like you're a little upset. What's going on, and you identify the needs. So it's about taking people's feelings and needs seriously to the point that you're able to name them and then to address them.
So winning
So
hearts and
that's what winning hearts and minds is: naming the feelings and needs, so you've acknowledged it, and then addressing them so that it works for the other person and for yourself.
sure, that's really great. Sarah from San Francisco said that she enjoyed the front cover, and that what were you thinking when you created the hoops around the people?
Well, as you can see, can you hold it up here for a
Yeah.
minute, Martine? There's the the blue hoop that goes around through the brain.
Uh huh.
So, are we in alignment with what we're thinking? And there's a hoop that goes through the heart. Are we in alignment with how we're feeling, and are we addressing it from a heart level? So, this approach is both head and heart. It's not just in your head, you got to think like me, but what are you feeling? And are your needs met or not met? And so let's address them. So it's bringing both in alignment with each other, and that's what flow is. Flow is the positive, creative, dynamic, forward-moving energy between people, and that only happens when you connect with your heart and your head as well.
That's terrific. So I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by the webinar. We want to go over a couple things with you. If you're not registered and you're not getting our newsletter, please just sign up. And I'm going to show you right now on the screen where that is, where you can sign up. And we have several animes on the website. Is that true? Is the Flow web on the anime on the website, Hayden?
Uh, There are the formula for flow,
Excellent.
and it has these circles in it. You'll
Okay,
recognize
I'm showing
them
it right now on
on
the
the very
screen.
front page.
Uh-huh.
There's the formula for flow, and then there's another video about our 2 day training and exactly what you learn and how we process through it. One is observations, feelings, needs, and requests. How to speak safely and respectfully to people even when it's a difficult situation. So we learn that, and then we move it right into a star process for results that deals with needs and uses strategy, and it explains it right in the video. The video is 3.5 minutes long. The flow video is 4.5 minutes long, so it doesn't take much time.
Now, as you can see on the screen, that's how you get to it. So yeah, that's terrific. So I want to invite you guys to take a look at that, share that, interact with us on Facebook and Twitter. Ask us, any kind of questions. We're happy to answer all your questions.
Very good.
So,
Thanks, Martine. And they can download the brochures that talks about the agenda of the course, and of course, if they have the book, they have the entire content that spells everything out in the book.
so our next webinar is we're going to discuss the four components of our human connection. You want to walk through real quick on that? Kind of give them a little flavor of what they're going to get on our next webinar?
If we know how we connect as human beings, it's simpler to connect. We connect through what's going on outside of us, or the facts of life. I call it the facticity of life. It's what we observe, and we all have this data coming in from outside. So it comes in, and then we make it mean something. We filter it through our thinking process and analyze it in something. So we make it mean something, and we have to get clear upon what's facts and what's we made up about it, our meaning. So those areas, and then there's the feelings. We all have similar feelings, no matter who we are, what language, where we live. We all have feeling. We may call it anger different in different languages, but
Mm-hmm.
it's still that feeling of anger. And then our needs, and we talked about this in the common thread, is
Yes.
that our needs are common to everyone. We all have a need for survival. No matter where we live, no matter who we are, we have a need for survival and a need for safety. Keep
Yeah.
it safe no matter where we are. And, the Maslow's hierarchy is a wonderful snapshot of needs that we all have. So those are the four areas: the facticity of life, what we're observing, what we make it all mean, our perspectives, the meanings we create, and then our feelings and our needs. And those four areas is where we connect or disconnect from others.
So if you have any questions, please tweet them or send us, the question on Facebook, and we do our best to answer those questions for you on the next webinar. So thank you very much, Hayden. It was a great webinar, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
See you, Martine. Great talking to you. Thank you.
You bet. Take care, everybody.